Thanks for joining me to learn how you can maximize the value you're getting from your ProjectWise system. I'm Al Gray, Vice President of Success Offerings at Bentley. I joined Bentley in 2004 as part of the company's acquisition of a small systems integrator for which I served as COO for more than 10 years. Prior to joining Bentley, my career was related to information management with focuses on heterogeneous networks and systems integration. As a Bentley Vice President, my role has primarily been the global leadership of professional services and support for ProjectWise, but I've also overseen sales and service for the AssetWise asset reliability product line. In 2021, I moved to a new team at Bentley whose role is to ensure that our users are getting the most value possible from our products and from their organization's relationship with Bentley. And that fits very nicely with the topic of this session. Because I've been working with ProjectWise for more than 20 years, I've formed some opinions about how well organizations that have ProjectWise are actually using it. And I'll be honest with you, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated that we haven't been able to help you take better advantage of capabilities that you're already paying for. Let's get something out of the way. You may be wondering, when is he going to get around to trying to sell me something? Well, that's a reasonable question given that I work for a software vendor. But for the most of you that are watching this, I'm here to help you leverage Bentley resources that you already have access to. So I'm going to cover two topics. One, tools that are available to help you understand your qualitative use of ProjectWise. And two, provide some direction on what we can do together to increase the value you're getting from ProjectWise. To start the conversation about where you're at today, we've pulled some feature usage data from organizations that have users registered for the 2021 ProjectWise User Conference. At the time we pulled the data, there were about 240 organizations that had someone registered. Those organizations represent about 187,000 ProjectWise users when measured over a quarter. 96% of those organizations are running the Connect edition. Now, that's great, but I want to talk to those that haven't upgraded yet. If I have my history right, and I think I do, the Connect edition of ProjectWise became available in September of 2015. Since then, there have been about 11 significant releases. We'll soon be at the 6-year anniversary of the release of the Connect edition. And some of you may say, well, the capabilities you have in older versions are meeting your needs. I argue you might not even be aware of new capabilities in ProjectWise that solve problems that aren't top of mind, sadly, because you may have just gotten numb to the pain of old processes that you're stuck with. Regardless, I'll just say that more than 6 years is a long time to go between upgrades of an information management system, given, especially now, the evolving security issues. Okay. Enough on that, since only 4% of the registrants aren't on the Connect edition. Okay, sorry. One more thing to add. If you haven't upgraded, doesn't it make you uncomfortable to know that you're in such a small percentage of systems that are running an old version? Please reach out to us if you need help. I think you'll find that the upgrade process is much easier than you might anticipate. Okay, about half the systems are hosted by Bentley, used ICS to create PDFs last month, or used workflow of any kind. You know, I've always found it interesting that there are parts of the world where workflow use isn't common, while in others, having workflows is table stakes. In fact, a couple of years ago at another ProjectWise conference, when I stated a similar stat, an administrator from Australia yelled over the crowd, "Why?" If you're not using workflow, my opinion is that you're not getting the full value possible from ProjectWise. If you'd like to argue that point with me, my email address will be on the last slide. You should expect to lose that argument. Only 2% of users execute saved searches. Now, you might want to say that search isn't a strong point in ProjectWise, so I'll admit that we have work to do. But search can be used effectively, and creating saved searches for your projects can be a big help to your users. Less than 25% of users of ProjectWise use search at all. This means that most are navigating folder structures, some complex and full of empty folders just because they were part of a standard. And that's a huge waste of time. Studies have shown that 40% or around 40% of engineering time is spent finding and validating data. Improving how your users search is an important way to save time, but it can also improve the quality because it can ensure users are working on the right information. Let's work on using ProjectWise to provide that value. 88,000 emails in a month. Now, sending file from ProjectWise as an attachment is a nice feature, but here's a case where you should understand the why. A short time ago, I contacted an organization who I noticed sent 42,000 emails with attachments in 1 month. When I called to ask for an explanation, the administrator only replied, "My God, can you tell me who's doing that?" As we dug into it, there were a variety of reasons, but 2 of them were concerning. In some cases, email was being used to collaborate with other parties. And the problem with that, of course, is that information in the ProjectWise system couldn't be trusted to be up to date. So for that use, it was decided to make sure all project participants were using ProjectWise. The other case was where employees were sending files that were part of a contractual deliverable to a customer. In the latter case, it was decided that deliverables management should be used in order to have a record of the transmittal. This group of registrants exported almost 10 million documents. Now, full disclosure, there was one organization that exported almost 20% of the total files due to a specific workflow they adopted, but the rest need to be sure they know why these files are being exported. I can think of a couple of reasons, like archival of closed projects, or a company policy for a particular records management system, but in some cases I've seen export used as an approach to collaboration with outside parties. Now, exports can be used for this and may be better than email in that you know what files have been exported and can import them back in at some later time. But using export and import as a way to collaborate has similar problems as does email in that changes might be made externally that people using the ProjectWise system aren't aware of. This can create big issues if some of the project participants aren't clear about this way of collaborating. I remember a case in a large road design project where some of the JV project participants used ProjectWise while one of the companies responsible for the alignment did not. Exports and imports were used to keep the ProjectWise system up to date, but a problem occurred when 2 weekly project meetings were canceled due to a holiday and a vacation taken by one of the key stakeholders. The alignment changed due to an environmental condition discovered after the project was underway, and that change didn't get communicated for over 2 weeks. Because the process was to discuss changes and then send a set of files to import into ProjectWise, when the project review calls didn't happen, the rest of the joint venture continued work against outdated information, which of course resulted in a lot of rework. So if exports are occurring, you should understand why, because it may mean that you're collaborating in a very different way than you thought. And frankly, not getting the full value of the collaboration capabilities of ProjectWise. Last, and this is the one that frustrates me the most and for which I have a lot of questions that go to the heart of this session's topic. In organizations that already have ProjectWise, only 47% of people that also use Bentley design products use it. I've gotten feedback that ProjectWise is overkill for some of our users. Okay, well, I think ProjectWise Web is now an answer to those use cases, but I realize that it wasn't released very long ago. By the way, if you have a group of users that only need access to content but don't need to change it, we do have a web interface designed for them. But remember, this percentage is about users that are using other Bentley products already. So I heard another reason given that while ProjectWise is essential to large, complex projects, setting up a project requires a lot of steps. So smaller, simpler projects just don't justify the effort. Yeah, I get that. The ProjectWise system has a lot of components that need to be configured and connected, but what if there was a way to reduce all of that complexity with a click of a button? More on that in a minute, but I see many organizations that have adopted the approach of putting large, complex projects into ProjectWise, while smaller, simpler ones are managed some other way. Some organizations that have done that have concluded that using 2 or more systems makes it very difficult to get a handle on the portfolio of projects. Some are beginning to use ProjectWise Web and or the Microsoft Teams integration to finally have that single source of truth. Now you're thinking, Microsoft Teams, there's yet another thing to set up. I promise we'll get back to talking about automated project creation in a few minutes. By the way, it's not lost on me that small, large, complex, simple end up being very subjective at most organizations. And I think that will lead to less clear insights into project portfolios than you might first realize. Let's drill in a little bit on the insights that we can provide you about the qualitative use of your system. A few years ago, a couple of Bentley colleagues decided that we wanted to use the feature data that we were collecting to create a maturity assessment for ProjectWise systems. We took all of the features and capabilities we track and assigned them to one of 4 buckets: connected data environment, digital design collaboration, work process automation, and project insights. What you see on the screen now is an example of a zoomed out view of an actual ProjectWise system's maturity. You'll notice that this organization, when compared to the ENR 100, is making about average use of the basic connected data environment and design collaboration capabilities, but is lagging on work process automation and in getting insights from the system. We can drill in further and see metrics and trends for particular areas of interest. Here, we can see that this organization makes no use of ICS for either scheduled or ad hoc jobs. And we can see how they would compare to their peers. We could drill in yet again and look at even more detailed data, but I think you get the point. There's a lot of insight we can provide on your system that you can use to prioritize areas of improvement. You may be thinking, well, it's nice to have this type of information. You already know a few areas where the maturity assessment is going to highlight problems. But you have limited time and resources with which to improve your system. So what can Bentley do to help? Because based on conversations with users and information from maturity assessments, we know what areas are likely going to need attention. So we've packaged up the assistance we can provide into something called blueprints. Instead of needing to go through a discovery process, requirements gathering, and proposal writing, we've jumped ahead to package up the type of assistance we know is necessary. Here you see a menu, if you will, of examples of blueprints that are available now. After all, many have been asking Bentley to bring our knowledge of what works and what doesn't, based on engagement with other organizations, and assist in applying best practices for their system. Frankly, we really haven't answered the bell on those types of requests very well. That is, until now. Blueprints are the way to leverage the lessons learned from a variety of systems from around the world and apply those best practices in a very efficient manner. We were talking earlier about the use or non-use of ICS, and I realize that it's possible that you don't even know what ICS stands for. And what does that matter? You're more concerned about knowing the problems it solves and the value it can provide. So here, our PDF deliverables automation blueprint utilizes a number of capabilities, including ICS, to automatically publish data-rich content to PDF. Earlier, I admitted that creating projects in ProjectWise took significant effort, so we now have a blueprint to set up project creation automation that can trigger project creation from a form, or better, by being integrated with some other system where your projects might be provisioned first, like, for instance, an ERP system. One organization recently integrated the project creation tool with their help desk. Now all someone has to do is submit a help ticket, and the ProjectWise project is provisioned automatically and according to standards. When you contact your account manager or success manager, one of the things they'll provide is a simple one-page overview that will also state what benefit, we like to call them outcomes, the blueprint is going to provide. The menu we just saw was just a set of examples, and we have a library full of blueprints that we can use to improve your system in a variety of ways. So the ones you saw there are just ones that are very commonly needed. Please contact your account manager or success manager to get started, and feel free to contact me with questions particular to the maturity assessment. Or you can contact me if you'd like to lose that argument about the value of workflow. Thanks again. Be well.